So here at Spa, we are getting ready for qualifying for the 70th edition of the Total 24 Hours of Spa. Welcome along, John Watson and David Addison trackside. Getting ready for 4 parts of qualifying because the new system for the Blancpain GT Series Endurance Cup, if you follow the championship, you'll know this already, but to make the point, each driver must do a section of qualifying. You add the times together and you take the average to determine partly the grid for this event, but also partly which 20 cars go into the next part of the qualifying process, which is tomorrow night double lap super pole competition. So there's even more to play for this evening. Now, because it's a 24-hour race, of course, many cars will have 4 drivers. So that's why we have 4 parts of qualifying. But those that are in the overall situation will only do qualifying 2, 3 and 4. And the average come from those 3 times they'll start up at the front of the grid. We have, of course, within the championships, plural, the endurance standings and the endurance and sprint combined standings. The endurance leaders are Dries van Thor, Alex Riberas and Christopher Mies, significant in a sense because that was the car in Alex Riberas' hands that topped the times at the end of the last activity on track, namely the pre-qualifying session. But if you scroll down through the names and you look at how close it is, you can understand why it's such a competitive championship, and also why it's going to be crucial to score points this weekend. And you get the points not only at the end of the race, but at 6 hours and at 12 hours as well. And that, of course, will throw into the mix more in terms of pit strategy, because will the teams chase an overall result, or will they chase points at each of those marks of the race? Because you want to be up there at 6 hours, you want to be up there at 12 if you're thinking championship. There are some that want to win the race, yes, but there are others who are wanting to win a championship. And this, if you get it right, could be a big haul of points.
Indeed, but I tend to think that the ones that want to win the championship want to win the points as well, because it's the nature of a human being to take every opportunity that is available to you, max it out, and at that 6 and 12 hour point in the race, those are the periods when you can really focus and maybe do things that mightn't, in the scheme of things at that particular moment, appear to be the right thing to gain points. And of course then you've got the dreaded safety cars and full course yellows, things that you can't control, and it's those elements in an endurance race of this duration that can turn the whole field upside down. Now, I don't know how many safety cars we're going to have. I understand we may only have 1 safety car this year, whereas in previous years there have been multiple safety cars. Need something to check up on. It was just mentioned to me quickly as I came up into the commentary booth. We are going to get a briefing, I gather, tomorrow to explain in detail and from a team's perspective, not just from the organisation's perspective, as to what the regulation changes over previous years have been. But that's one to keep an eye on, because the trouble with safety cars is there's not one person in the pit lane that wouldn't tell you, well, I would have won that if it wasn't for a safety car intervention.
It's true enough, isn't it? So it's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out. You've just seen another potential winning car, the Manthey Racing Porsche. What about BMW's chances? BMW has got a great track record in this event, not only in terms of GT racing, but also the days of European Touring Car Championship, or indeed standalone touring car races, when the Spa 24 Hours went through this period of being a not run what you brung saloon car race, that's unfair, but it fell outside all the different domestic regulations for a time. But BMWs, whether they've been the M6, the 635s, the M3, going back to the early 323s, they've all had great success here, even the 3-litre CSLs. And Rover Racing could, and it's done it before, be the winning team come the end of the weekend.
Well, I think, again, the nature of the race, the duration of the race, the layout here of Spa-Francorchamps, old school, fundamentally high speed, a lot of high-speed corners. That, of course, is now punctuated by what we euphemistically call the bus stop chicane. Not particularly attractive as a sequence of corners for a driver, but as a challenge nevertheless. La Source, of course, historic, been there since this circuit was created way back in the 30s, and other than it's now been widened considerably on the exit. Now, if you think back to the glory days of Spa in the 50s in particular, and watching your favourite driver coming up through Blanchimont and those quick corners before you got to La Source, how narrow the racetrack was back in those, some say the good old days, but some of those good old days were very tragic and sad old days.
Now there's another of the very competitive Porsches that we've got for the KUS Team Bernhardt. And they're down the endurance pits. This is the Spa lap. Let's just go from the old start finish line, plunge downhill, speeds nudging over 200 kilometres an hour down to the bottom, flick through Eau Rouge and climb up through Radion. Speed building all the time, 241 kilometers an hour to that point. Carry on going all the way up towards Les Combes, and this is a part of the circuit where we've seen plenty of people get it plenty wrong over the past few seasons. But 268 kilometers an hour in a straight line, John, an ultra-fast section of the circuit.
Yes, I mean, it's once you've gone through Eau Rouge and Radion, then you get a chance to catch your breath and maybe get your heart rate down in some cases. And the challenge of Les Combes isn't great. It's really the middle part of the circuit, the heart of the circuit, which is really where the aero and the downforce that these cars generate comes to its fore. Then the climb back uphill, coming into Blanchimont, probably the quickest corner on the racetrack, but not the most difficult corner. I think Pouhon is the corner that's the most challenging. Here we got the bus-stop chicane in its most current configuration, and the purpose of having it was to slow the cars down coming onto start line pit straight. It is what it is, but La Source, if you're talking about any classic corner on any classic racetrack anywhere in the world, La Source is a slow second gear, first gear corner, but it epitomizes what Spa-Francorchamps to me is all about.
There, looking down from Eau Rouge, still one of the iconic parts of the circuit. It's been changed a lot for safety purposes over the years, but it is still a very fast part of the circuit. Perhaps less of a challenge for some drivers in a car with the right aero, and if the driver's got the right size whatnot, but even so, it's still a challenge for many.
The challenge has been diminished over the years because the corner has been eased and eased and eased. And even in a GT3 car, we're looking at the new Honda, which is the first time we've seen that racing, looking absolutely stunning, and I thought it looked really great. I just love the way the car's language on the circuit.
Yeah.
Well sorted chassis, good aerodynamics, car definitely for the future. Riccardo Patrese behind the wheel, he's going to be the driver as a bronze driver. Kind of calling Riccardo Patrese a bronze driver. I mean, can you put the two things, Patrese and bronze, together? Well, only if he wears a nice pair of shoes that look like bronze. That's about as near as I would get.
Now, the Bentleys didn't have a great first part of the evening, but the car's getting ready. There is the BMW driver Philippe Eng, who's gone for a wander to see his old mates. And Bentley with, as I say, little to cheer about just yet, but only pre-qualifying. You never really know what the teams are up to. Now I think people are going to start to show their hand, and the bulk of those that you can anticipate to go for overall honours we won't see until Q2 anyway. So this first session is still a little bit of a trick.
Yes, because we're going to see the fourth driver in a four-car driver lineup. But what we will see in the remaining three sessions is there are 40 cars that can be in the top 20 on merit with the driver lineups, the quality of the entry, the quality of the car. But only 20 are going to get through, and that's going to be a real fist fight. And it will be tough for those drivers who are looking to get into the top 20, how they're going to deal with traffic for maybe the bottom half of the 26 or so cars, 23 cars that would create the bottom half of the field. They're doing their best. They're on the racetrack fighting for their own battle, their own categories, their own championship. And these pro drivers and these quicker cars are going to be coming through. The responsibility will always lie with the pro driver in terms of how they get through traffic and overtaking. If there is contact, it will be the pro driver that will be immediately brought into the stewards. The responsibility lies with the pro drivers when they're making their way through traffic.
Now Audi, as you can see, has, as ever, a big presence here at the event, whether it's on the track or over the circuit. And Audi potentially could be a winning brand. We know what the track record is like in GT3 racing. Of course, Audi only really in recent years has had success in the Spa 24 Hours, because in the days of this being a touring car race, it never really had a car that was going to be competitive for any more than a class win. But since GT3 became the category for the event, much more success has come, and especially, of course, for WRT as a Belgian team, very important to win here on home ground. But you go back to 2011 to find the first Audi win. The event dating back to 1924, don't forget.
Just getting some of the glimpses around the circuit. Look rather like a petrified forest. Just that part of the circuit. That's, I think, more the result of the extremely dry weather. You can see there the young fans in their preferred vantage positions, and one of the locals, let's call him that, sitting up enjoying whatever he's munching on. And some of the workers here are busy people for the 24 hours, let alone for these this 1 hour period or so of qualifying.
Broken into sections of 15 minutes, and Q1 is underway. Mercedes are a little bit sluggish to get away, but Q1 is underway. A few team managers had their wrists slapped for letting the cars onto the fast lane before the lights went green earlier, and before the fast lane open sign was on the timing screen. So for this occasion, They're being a little bit more cautious, but qualifying for the 70th edition of the Total 24 Hours of Spa is underway.
Benchmark time that all these competitors will be aiming for was set this earlier in the session, or earlier this evening, I should say. Alex Riberas in the number 1 Audi, 2 minutes 19.758. Now, that was done midway through the session. Nobody really challenged it thereafter. In qualifying, fresher tyres, in some cases maybe even new tyres for these. This is a small number of drivers, maybe about 15, 18 competitors out in this session. Jack Manchester in the number 90 Mercedes.
Now that was a car that stopped at La Source in pre-qualifying. Looks undamaged, so one assumes it was a minor mechanical drama, but the good news is that it's on track. All those cars have to wait. They're the overall Cup drivers. They have to wait until they're good to go in Q2, 3 and 4.
The only advantage that you might say the 4th driver in these 4-driver car lineups will have is there's fewer of them on circuit, and therefore there's more opportunity for them to have their 15 minutes. What I'm going to say in the sun will slightly overcast.
Now you won this race in 2014. Back here with the Porsche, you're our big hope for the weekend. How do you think it's going to go?
Well, I hope good. We've been close last year. I've been close another time before, after 2014. So I hope this time we can put everything together, and wouldn't be bad to get a second victory.
You feeling confident?
Sorry?
You feeling confident?
Yeah, reasonably, but that's always very difficult to say. You never really know where you are. Last practice or pre-qualifying was actually better than expected, but it's a 24-hour race and one lap really doesn't count. So I think nobody knows until a couple of hours after the race.
Let's go watch qualifying.
So we are enjoying Q1. Lawrence Van Thor, as ever, a potential winner. And there, Nicolas Jamin, Mercedes, onto a flying lap.
So, outside La Source, clean exit. Doesn't look like it's really on it. It's hard to judge the speed as he leaves La Source down the hill. Building speed up to about 215, 20 kilometers per hour at race speed. And then the compression, then the turn right. You can't really see radio when you're in the bottom of the compression. You just sort of aim the car. Probably there's something on your skyline that says that's where you need to be. And then over the top, the car gets light and tippy toes all the way to the outside of the exit of radio. And you can breathe again. You've managed to get through the whole sequence of corners without a problem.
Let's compare and contrast the two Porsches there, John. GT3 versus Cup car. The Cup car looking almost standard in comparison, but a GT3 Porsche, like any GT3 car, is, capital letters, a serious piece of kit.
Well, that's what we're looking at there right now. I mean, look at the width of the car. I mean, carbon fiber body panels, the wings. Width of the car very much greater, aerodynamic, way beyond what the Cup car is. The Cup car, by road car standards, which is what fundamentally it is, has got tons of grip on the road, outrageous handling. But on a racetrack, compared to the GT3, the car we're looking at right now, and the Cup car, two different cars altogether.
That's the Herbert Motorsport car, Jürgen Hering at the wheel of it, which is also driven by Alfred Renauer and the pseudonym Edvard Louis Brauner for the purposes of this weekend. Wolfgang Triller as well, double Class B champion in Carrera Cup Germany behind the wheel. So within its class, it's going to be competitive, and there you see headlights ablaze, the Porsche turning its way there through the pit path. Don't think because of its bright green colours that it's out of the same stable as the bright yellow sister shape of Manthey, different teams and different categories in which the cars are running, different classes within the 24 hours of Spa. Manthey with one car, Bernhardt's team with one car for this event as well, rather than the two that Manthey ran, for example, at the Nürburgring 24 hours. So the circuit not as busy as it will be. It's busy enough, but certainly going for the time here is Jürgen Hering, who has got better as he has spent more time racing not only in Blancpain Endurance, I'll take it all back, he runs way wide out of turn 17 out of Blanchimont there. He's also done a lot of mileage this year in the Blancpain GT Sports Club races as well, so in a comparable car, Jürgen Hering getting very familiar now with what this is about. Comes over the timing line, and 2:21 at the moment is the best time, and that is 2:23, so a slightly slower lap being posted.
Riccardo Patrese behind the wheel of a race car, well, 61 years of age, and all the fundamentals that he enjoyed at the peak of his professional career, bit by bit he's peeling back the layers. And I would imagine by the time he finishes this race on Sunday afternoon at 4:30, he would like to say, well, I'm now ready to go and do a 24-hour race at Spa, because it will take him all that time to go through. Can I brake so late? Can I get on the power so early? Can I take a commitment? How much commitment do I need to make coming down here into Fagna, into the flip-flop? But the exit of that, how much curb do I want to run on the exit? Well, I'm running a little bit right now on the brakes into Campos. The commitment, and that's ultimately what you have to deal with, is that there is commitment and the ability to have confidence and trust in your car and trust in yourself as you make the way out of Paul Frere Cove, up the hill. A personal best for Riccardo Patrese, but this is his first flying lap. On board with the Italian driver, looks very composed. You can look at the focus, wearing glasses. Never saw Riccardo wearing glasses racing in period, but going through Blanchimont, a little bit of a load in the car, just him squeezing down on the seat, then relaxing as he comes out of Blanchimont, then on the brakes, slightly wide, turning into the bus stop chicane. So what time will Riccardo Patrese, number 30, in the Honda, 2 minutes 25, 2:25.418. That puts him currently in 9th position out of the 13 cars we've seen so far on track.
It is, as we were making the point in the pre-qualifying session, a great looking car that, and you've got a quick driver behind the wheel of it. Honda is here not to make up the numbers, that is for sure. McLaren likewise, and there is the Am Cup car, double winner this year, and it is Alexander West at the wheel, as you see from the Lumirank display on the screen. This is the car that he shares with Chris's Harris and Goodwin, but also for this weekend, Andrew Watson going from the overall McLaren to a class car.
You have to think that Andrew Watson is going to be doing a lot of driving in this car, assuming it makes its way to the end of the 24 hours, because he is the driver. If you like, he's their joker. He is a silver driver, but in real terms, he should be at gold or even platinum level, but he's still graded silver. So it's given the Garage 59, McLaren number 188, the opportunity to draft him in from the 58 McLaren into the 188. As we watch Alexander West getting a little bit wide coming out of the flap down into Campos, watching on the exit. Many drivers in that session, the pre-qualifying session, some 2 hours ago, were being flagged up for track limit abuses, and particularly as you make your way back up the hill through the series of rights, then left, the big commitment with the Blanchimont. Well, no brake lights, but maybe a little bit of feather on the throttle. And as that, you can see that sort of orangey red colour, that's the limit you're allowed to go to. You can get 2 wheels up it, but you're not going to get all 4 wheels over it. Alexander West, a bit too deep into the bus stop chicane, loses the momentum, having to check the throttle, then get the car back and then turn back to the left. So not a particularly satisfying lap, but 2 minutes 23.1 for the 188 McLaren. That sees it currently 9th quickest out of the 26 cars that so far. Riccardo Patrese has spun.
Oh no.
Riccardo coming out of Campos. What did you do?
And he's beached on the outside of the road. Now, can he get it fired up and can he get out of the way is the next question.
A lot going on in Riccardo Patrese's head right now. The car stopped facing the wrong way. As we look at the Mercedes 89, still currently the quickest car of this red flag.
And now it gets going again.
He got it going, but not enough steering lock. So anyway, the session has been red flag. So just sit there, Riccardo, wait for everybody to go past. Then you can reverse back onto the racetrack. But where's reverse? Paddle shifts in these cars. You've got to look down into the cockpit. You've got restriction on the shoulders with a hands device. And all the Honda drivers going, oh, that's our car.
So Riccardo Patrese, winner here in 1985 of the Spa 1,000 kilometres in the Lancia. He's found reverse.
Yeah, the thing is, there's no, what I would call conventional clutch pedal. Yet he managed to get rear wheel spin going back in reverse, which is a pretty good thing. He got the car moving, now he's got to get a bit more lock onto it. He might want to really reverse the car further back onto the racetrack, because the track is under red flag conditions. So anybody coming through Campos is going to be travelling very much more slowly. And this is where panic sets in. You know, it's a lack of familiarity. Even though he maybe has spent days and hours going through all the systems, all of a sudden, game's changed. This is for real. What do I do? He might be on the radio to the team in the pits. Where's reverse? What do I do now? Well, they can say, just sit there. The track is red. Don't worry about it. The car will be picked up and we'll get it rolling very quickly.
And of course the clock stops because this is the qualifying session. There into the pit lane comes one of the fleet of Ferraris out of AF Corsa. And that's Riccardo Petresi, who, having tried to get off the grass, is now stuck, I think, because even though we've had a little bit of rain, it was still slippery enough to make the grass damp. And there the marshals need to give it a shove, but anyway, he'll be out of harm's way. The car's under investigation for causing the red flag.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure what investigation is required. It's pretty obvious that I think there was a spin in campus, and now Riccardo's got the car rolling, but he must remember he's got to come back to the pits at a very slow speed, 30 maybe kilometers or so per hour. And once everybody gets back into the pit lane, then the race director can get everything back in control, and then the session can get back underway. 6 minutes and 12 seconds. So that's the best part of an out lap, a flying lap. And if you're at the very head of the queue, you just might sneak in a second lap, but it's probably only going to be one flying lap in reality for the bulk of the field. So looking back, looking down from Radio to the curve at Eau Rouge, and there are two pits here, of course, at Spa-Francorchamps. This is what we might euphemistically call the Formula One pits, which was created some decade or so ago now. And the secondary pitch, which is maybe the historic pitch, which is it is the historic pitch here at Spa-Francorchamps, which is on the down slope, which leads to then pit lane exit as we look inside one of the SRO Motorsport Aston Martin's car, which was absolutely dominant at Silverstone and ran pretty strongly as well, but not maybe as successfully, and the Paul Ricard 6 hours. And look at that little bit of mist beginning to cling to the trees.
That's Spa for you, isn't it?
Well, you know, what else can you have at Spa? We haven't had snow yet, but, you know,
give it time.
Still time.
Yep. So looking down from the top of the hill, all the way across Pont, Blanchimont, the bus stop, the start and finish area, the F1 pits, of course, it's the combined pit lane here, so you come in through the F1 pits, the hairpin on the inside of the source, down through the so-called endurance pits. There they are, the old pits, what used to be the Uniroyal Tower, which I don't think is used very much these days, but it's another focal point of the circuit, and these are the cars trickling their way down to La Source, and the exit then running down to Eau Rouge. Red flags fly. The session will restart on short notice, we are told, and so 6 minutes to go effectively. This gives us a chance to hear from Nico Bastien, who was doing spectacular things earlier. He's out of the car and with Dakota.
Nico, now you're leading the Silver Cup Championship, so there's going to be critical championship points on the line here this weekend. Are you going to be able to keep up?
Definitely. It's the race of the races this year again, and you gain a lot of points here. You gain, but you also can lose a lot of points. So it's very important to be in front after 6, 12 and 24 hours, as you get points for every mark. So yeah, it's a very exciting race and very important for the championship for sure.
What would you say is the biggest challenge over Spa 24 hours?
To have the right strategy, because there are so many safety cars for sure. Then the weather will be interesting. As far as I know, there's rain expected on Saturday right at the start. And just to do a perfect job always on strategy, but also on the technical side and also from the driver's side.
Thank you, good luck.
Nico Bastien is somebody that has developed into a very handy driver in a pretty short space of time. He's come out of less high-profile German championships, but actually through the VLN and now into Blancpain racing, whether it's in Europe or in Asia, pretty good peddler.
Well, in a four-car or four-driver car lineup, he's somebody who's certainly going to be an asset.
Yeah,
and
sure.
that 90 Mercedes is a car that we've seen, particularly with Nico Bastien behind the wheel, has been capable of running very competitively indeed. Certainly it's in that group of cars, the 26, 27 in fact have now taken to the track, where there are 4 drivers involved in driver sharing. That's one that's going to be a focus, maybe not initially in the opening, maybe 2 or 3 or 4, maybe up to the 6-hour mark, which Nico referred to, where there are points. Now he's thinking about that points overall, not necessarily, is that point in each category?
Yes,
it is.
yeah.
So he's focusing on his category at 6 hours. We want to make sure we are on the mark.
So the session is live again, but bear in mind there were 6 minutes to go. You lose 2, maybe 3 as an out lap, so you're only going to get probably 1 flying lap in if you're at the back of the queue. Many, I think, of the teams will decide not to go out and use this extra time getting ready for Q2.
I think we're seeing the 188 McLaren doing that precise thing. They've got the wheels and tires off. There's the sister car. That's the pro car. Pretty much deciding we've done a run, we've got a time, and in the case of the 188 McLaren, which was driven by Alexander West, that car currently is 10th overall on a 2 minutes 23.184. So what will happen to that car when the Chris Harris takes over, and ultimately it'll be Andrew Watson will probably be the last driver in it. Some cars have chosen, the 90 Mercedes amongst them, Sean Walkinshaw there in the 22 Nissan. He's back in Europe since his trips out to the Far East, Japan, in particular the Japanese GT Championship, GT300, is it?
Yeah, Super GT300, yeah. And there, look, people slowing right down, trying to find themselves on clear track space coming out of the bus stop. But you're only really going to get one shot at this, aren't you?
Well, a lap's 2 minutes 20. So if they can get back across the start-finish line and time to spare, then they will have a second lap. And certainly with 3 minutes 33 on a flying lap, 2 minutes 23, they should have about a minute or so to spare coming across the line, so they will get 2 flying laps.
The Mercedes there is fastest in Pro-Am at the moment. Darren Burke, former historic Formula Ford racer, amongst other things. He's at the wheel of it, and that was a car, remember, that won with Sala Yorick and Ewan Hankey sharing with him at Silverstone in the second round of the Endurance Cup. Darren Burke really now coming to prominence on a much bigger scale, and he's done a 221.162, which is 44 thousandths away from Nico Jamin in a comparable car.
Yeah, I mean the difference in time, it's less than a blink of an eye, and it's a good start. You've put your marker down, and then leave the balance to the 3 other drivers in your car. But again, it's not necessarily about these. Are any of these cars going to get into the top 20 for the shootout? It's highly unlikely, unless we have a cloudburst or something unexpected, unpredictable were to happen. But I don't think, looking skyward at the minute, there's a fair amount of blue sky, probably about the same amount of blue as there is overcast, but certainly all that overcast way higher than it was earlier in the afternoon when we did get rain. The traditional Spa rain didn't let us down.
And it's already booked for the race, as you heard Nico Bastian talking about, for the start of the race as well. I mean, that's going to make it even more frantic, isn't it?
I was concerned about the grin on his face.
Yes,
it was almost as if he wanted it to be wet. I mean,
he's a glutton for punishment.
Take it easy, Nico. Take it easy.
Yeah, it's not what the promoter wants for the start of the race. The crowd's going to get wet, but they're number 12. This is 5th fastest at the moment. This is Ling Kang, which is how it should be, because in Chinese you put the family name first. I know when he came into European racing he was known as Kang Ling, but it should be Ling Kang to do it the correct Chinese way. Former European Formula 3 racer, and Ling Kang accelerating now through Blanchiment, driving for Ombre Racing.
Is that a dab on the brakes, or has he got his headlights on? No, he has his lights on, yes. So just being able to differentiate between the tail lights and the brake lights. So that was the tail light we saw coming into Blanchiment.
And he goes for the pit lane.
So he's happy enough with what he's done. 5th quickest, 2:21.389. 2:21.118, still the quickest overall.
Just got Rob Smith in the Team Parker Bentley up to 8th. There is 75 Ferrari. That was the car we saw a little while ago going through one of its pit stops, just getting ready. But 75 is the Gregory Chow, David Chipton-Biantoro, Christian Colombo, Matteo Cressoni car, the T2 Motorsport car. Gregory Chow, David Chipton-Biantoro, regulars from racing in Asia, Blancpain GT Series Asia last season. 78, part of Barwell's team of Lamborghini Huracans. This is the Michele Beretta, Rick Breikers, Sandy Mitchell, Martin Kodrich car. And it's 3rd fastest, and it is Michele Beretta behind the wheel.
Not seeing any improvements coming from any of these cars back on track. 20 seconds go, and here, certainly this 78 Lamborghini will be taking the checkered flag at the conclusion of this lap. So not seeing any improvement from those cars that went back out on track with just the 6 minutes and 12 seconds that remained when the track went green.
And we've had a lap time cancelled for the number 5 Black Falcon Mercedes of Pryton Lendudis for track limit abuse, one would imagine. So that car loses a lap time, and what does that do to it?
26th of this group.
Yeah, indeed so. Not good. So the flag is out. there over the timing line goes Michele Beretta. 2:21.315 being the best lap time done. Riccardo Patrese 21st before that spin at 2:25.418. But it's not the end of the world because it's the average that we're looking for. Here's the, grass cutting 175 Mercedes, which is the Ben Schneider, Thomas Jäger, Kenny Hubble, Martin Conrad car from HTP Motorsport.
Just looking at the metallic blue, way off the track coming out of Campos, just reminded me that the rear view of that car, I thought, AC Daytona Cobra, look at the back of it.
Yeah.
You can almost imagine being transported back into the 63, 64, 65 even, when the Cobras dominated their GT category, beating the renowned Ferrari 250 GTOs. Spectacular paint scheme.
It is, isn't it? Kenny Hubble, somebody I think who's new to Blancpain from memory, coming into the bus stop in the Sun Energy back car. He'll take the flag. Will he do it in the pits? Yes, he will. So he bails. Comes in early because there's no real point if you're not going to improve on that lap. It's taking the flag, give the team the time they need to work on the car. So Q2 is under 6 minutes away. So it really is an in-lap change of driver, almost like a race pit stop. You've got to get the next guy in quick.
Not much time.
No, the clever teams would write off this last lap.
Especially if you're the last car to take the checkered flag, because then you're going to be slightly on the back foot because you've got less time when you come into the pits. And are you going to do a gentlemanly lap in, or are you going to give it the full bananas?
Well, that's what I mean. The clever teams would say, in the case here of Rinaldi, to this driver,
come in now.
You're not going to improve. Come in. There's no point staying out. And that's what happens. So into the pit lane comes the Rinaldi Ferrari 333. Which was Daniel Kylvitz, who is a quick driver actually, but Kylvitz not sparkling in that session, only 18th.
Whoa,
contact.
What was that? Cutting back across the front of a car going slowly. Absolutely, totally unnecessary.
Well, that was Ahmad Al-Hafi in the Aston Martin, and it was 42, wasn't it? The Buncombe, Leventis, Williamson, Fuminelli, Mercedes of Chris Buncombe that did the chopping.
Well, I mean, I know he's a bit of a sort of a, well, I'll not go there, but it was a bit aggressive, the cutback. I mean, the Aston was running slowly. It didn't need to be so aggressive.
Let's just run through the times. Fastest 89 Nico Jamin from Darren Burke, so Am ahead of Pro-Am. Then heading the Silver Cup, Michele Beretta, Arno Santamato 4th ahead of Ling Kang, Alberto Di Folco 6th from Ahmad Al-Hafi, Rob Smith, Kenny Hubble, Nikolai Rogibu 10th, and 11th Sean Walkinshaw, Chris Buncombe 12th fastest. 13th going to Jürgen Herring ahead of Alexander West. Jack Manchester 15th from Anders Burkhardt. Duncan Cameron 17th from Kylvitz, Nick Homerson and Adrian Amstutz making a return to Spa after his fiery accident 12 months ago. He is 20th. 21st Tim Pappas in the Black Swan Racing Porsche ahead of Riccardo Patrese, Christian Kelders, Juan Perez, who stopped and caused the pre-qualifying session to be stopped early. Then it's Nico van Dierendonck 25th ahead of Murad Sultanov, Krasen Londudis, who lost his best time, Sven Heravoski, Gregory Tiao 28th, Pierre-Yves Pack 30th, and Indonesian Andrew Haryanto completing the 31. And we've now got just over 2 minutes before we go into the second part of qualifying. And now you throw into the mix all those cars that have got just the 3 drivers, all of those cars from the overall class, and now not only does the track become busier, but it becomes ever more competitive.
Messy. And I don't mean Lionel, I'm just thinking sorry, you shouldn't laugh at your own jokes. Just the volume of traffic that we're going to see in a 15-minute window to try and get a single clear lap. And many of these drivers will be using either a brand new set of tyres or the best of their tyres available. And it's going to be merciless. It's going to be ruthless in some instances. I just hope that everybody appreciates that, you know, as we saw with Chris Buncombe. We think it was Chris Buncombe when he chopped across the front of the Aston Martin and did damage to the Mercedes, not to the Aston. Rubens Barrichello behind the wheel of his Mercedes, and Rubens looking comfortable indeed and just getting accustomed to driving the Mercedes AMG GT3. Hey Ruby, how are you getting on with the brakes? Thought there were maybe a little bit of work he could do to understand how to use the brakes. And of course, a heavy car, not the aero he's maybe accustomed to.
Riccardo Patrese there, he's all being dragged out with that familiar blue and white stripy helmet.
I mean, I have to say, I think what Honda's done by bringing Riccardo Patrese back as a part of the driver lineup is fantastic. But I don't know if Riccardo has had any race driving in any GT3 car prior to coming here. And, you know, even though he's probably done a lot of testing and racing are two different creatures, and it's the pressure, and all of a sudden, this is for real. This is what's going to count.
One of the co-drivers, Loic Depailler, very rapid driver himself, now magazine editor, but the son of the late Patrick Depailler, Formula One racer, of course, Grand Prix winner. So there is the 333 Ferrari, which for this session will go from Daniel Karlovitz to Alexander Matschel. And cars now, I was going to say making their way to the end of the pit lane. That's a car only coming in from Q1,
yeah,
so that illustrates the point about how little time you've
got.
got.
I said, do you come in on that in lap? Because if you come in a more leisurely fashion, by the time you get into the pit lane is now open for cars to make their way back onto the racetrack. So that car will have lost probably maybe 3 or 5 minutes in the process of doing a driver change and whatever other changes they may want to make. They may want to change all 4 wheels and tires. They may want to refuel. In fact, they don't have the fuel is.
So 15 minutes we will have, and fastest in Q1, Nicolas Jamin. Let's hear from him right now.
Nico, fastest in Q1. That was some good display of driving.
No, it was good. The car was really good. The Mercedes handled very well. I'm happy for the team, you know, with my gentleman driver. It's a good start in Q1, but now we need to get it done in Q2, 3 and 4.
Is this possible?
I think so, yeah. We're definitely trying to go for the pole in class.
Good luck, thank you.
So the green flag is shown, 15 minutes is go, lights go green now at the end of the pit lane. 88 Mercedes is going to be the first one out, which is part of the ACA ASP squad. It's going to be Raffaele Marciello to go first. Now there, straight away, somebody that could be fastest in this session.
Always exciting, Raffaele Marciello, and he did blot his copybook in Misano in the sprint round there just over a month ago, but he was fighting for the lead, defending his lead, and just went a bit too aggressive, but he does bring excitement.
Yes.
And his drive here last year was one of the most outstanding drives of the entire 24 hours. I mean, what he did on that 88 Mercedes to get it to where it was, and it was a race in which anybody could have won in the final hours, and he was just, I thought, magnificent.
Lawrence Vanthor looks on from the pit lane, getting ready for his turn in the 117 Kuss Team Bernhardt car. But now, of course, the light fading, the temperature's cooling, and you see how busy the circuit is getting as the 3 Porsches, or 3 of the Porsches, are getting themselves together in this 70th anniversary of Porsche. Not everybody out yet, but the line of cars disgorged from the pit lane is getting longer and longer all the time. Now, who's in 911 for this session? Because that, again, is going to be a car to watch. Fred Makowiecki. Don't bet against him being the fastest.
No, and I mean, Fred will get his elbows out where he needs to, and this leading group of cars will want to sort themselves out. They don't want to get, for example, the 28 Lamborghini getting too closely involved, albeit Stefano Guzzotto behind the wheel.
Great noise the Mercedes makes. Green lights flash as they're getting the warmth into the tyres is Marciello. So he's done the right thing here. First out means you've got, in theory, clear track space. However, there are so many cars still coming out of the pit lane, it won't be long before he catches effectively the tail enders.
Exactly. And it's all going to happen around the radio. Here we see the cars making their way. Okay, the pit lane exit actually enters the racetrack beyond radio, but it means that you're going to have a whole plethora of cars going down the Kemmel Straight, maybe not staying to the right as they're required to do. So Raffaele sets off. First flying lap for the young Italian, a driver who really is, I think, if not the most exciting to watch, one of the most exciting, but there's his problem. Now they're all going to filter down through the historic pits or the endurance pits. Right now the racetrack here is clear. It's only when he gets through Eau Rouge and then over the top of radio, and all of a sudden, what have I got? Well, any number of different cars, all behind him, ahead of him, and he's hoping. Look at them all over the place, weaving, trying to get tire temperature. And Raffaele's, I don't know how you swear in Italian, probably it's easier to swear in English, saying, get out of my way.
Well, headlights are on, but straight away he catches a Ferrari mid-corner. Going to be hard, this.
With respect to all these drivers, when they're coming out of the pits, knowing that there's a driver on a flying lap because they would have known somebody had to be first out, you've just got to be aware and get out of the way. In this instance, that's critical. What happens as the session goes on, then everybody's either in and out of the pits. Look, weaving side to side to side, and Raffaelli's backed out of it because he knows wasting my set of tyres, wasting my time. These guys haven't got any idea. My car, 88, way quicker than they're driving, wants to get through, and there's no way with 6 cars ahead of him that he's going to manage any of that. He needs to get through some of these cars, though, before he gets to the bus stop chicane. Otherwise, he'll have another lap where he'll be doing much the same thing.
So there's a flash of the lights to the TPR Bentley there to try and get through. But as you say, this lap is compromised. So in theory, first out, clear track space. It's not worked at all for him, has it?
I mean, it's a roll of the dice as to what you do. With 15 minutes and 62, 63 cars going on track, it's a lottery. And if you get one clear lap in your session, you will probably thank your lucky stars. So Raffaelli is now winding it back up again, but look at the traffic ahead of him. That's at the end of a lap. You shouldn't be doing that. Now Raffaelli is completely off. What is going on? These guys are not using their mirrors, they're not aware, and they're compromising what he has done. Now he's got to start all over again.
But look who he's just gone past. Those are WRT Audis. Those are pro drivers. They're not AMs.
Well, whoever it was behind the wheel ought to be more considerate, because to do what they've done on a car that is potentially going to be a quick car, number 2.
René Rast.
Well, René should know better than that.
Dries Van Toor, next one through. They were the last 2 cars he was trying to
those
get
2
past.
drivers, I would have thought the race director might say to them, what you did compromised the potential of the 88 car. But René Rast, right on the gearbox, almost under the rear wing, runs inside the curb in the exit radio, trying to get a slipstream from the Mercedes all the way down the Kemmel Straight. Mercedes stretches his legs, but as they get further down the straight, Audi picks up the slipstream. What for Rast coming out to the left, trying to find a way under brakes, but no way with Raffaele Marciello that's going to happen.
The ACA ASP team complaining to the race director that there are too many cars weaving around, getting the warmth into the tyres, which is what we've seen.
Absolutely. I mean, I think what was happening coming up into the bus stop chicane was from 2 pro drivers, knowing that there was a quicker driver coming behind, was ridiculous.
Bentley 7 up the escape road. Fred Makovici fastest, 2 minutes 19.760. And number 1 Audi, absolute best in the first sector. And this, did we put Dries Van Toor behind the wheel? We did. So
yeah,
Marciello is struggling now.
Yeah, well, of course, he's had maybe the best of his tyres gone. This car was one of those 2 Audis that was doing the weaving. Yeah. But Dries Van Toor has managed to find that little bit of clear racetrack overall quickest in sector 1, running behind Marciello, who is beginning to wonder what went wrong for me. What have I done wrong? Well, you've Dries Van Toor, wheel right over the curb, the right rear dragging inside the curb, dragging dust onto the racetrack.
Marcus Winkelhock fastest, 219.598 now, so this is the target, a 219.5.
34.1, 218.988.
Tom Blumquist in the Falcon horse BMW.
He was being quick in that pre-qualifying session as well.
It's a quick car, wasn't it? So Tom Blom with an absolute 2 personal bests. Winkelhock is 2nd, Fred Makovici is 3rd, Renger van der Zande is 4th.
76 has now gone 2nd, so the SRO Motorsports Aston Martin up into 2nd place. So all of a sudden, drivers are finding clear bits of the racetrack. Watch Dries Van Toor. What can he do? This is a quicker lap than the 88 Mercedes. He's following, but isn't good enough to get him into the top 6, into the top 3, into the top 1.
Fastest at 218.763. 218.763. And Raffaele Marciello is being given a warning flag for blocking.
Come on. Maybe that's your quid pro quo. He might have felt, well, I got messed up out by the number 1 and number 2 Audi. Watch when the Porsche now comes across the line. Is this going to see a further improvement for 9-mile-man? No, it's not.
So he's onto a flying lap now. At last, that was a little bit slower. So, to recap, Dries Van Toor is quicker than Tom Blomqvist. 3rd is now Calvin van der Linde for Land. 4th is Mathieu Vezivier. 5th is Winkelhock. 6th is Makovici. And now you're on board with Fred Mako and a warning flag for blocking for Raffaele Marciello.
Well, I think that'll be under discussion.
And he's 10th, by the way, Marciello.
Flat out through Eau Rouge over radio. Now that takes commitment, and that is impressive.
So the bright yellow Porsche climbs the hill. Look at the dial, 258, 259, 260, still accelerating, 261 km/h.
Not the quickest down the straight, but remember Spa-Francorchamps is a circuit of 3 parts. The first part high speed, the middle part very much aerodynamic, not restrictive, that's where you can pick up so much time. Then the third stage, very much more about top speed. But Fred Makiewicz, personal best 39.979 in that first sector. Currently that car 6th, quickest overall in a 2:19.7. Fred Makiewicz looking as he comes down the hill into Puhol. Listen. Oh, get you in the guts, doesn't it? Almost that throttle, a flat 6 engine, 495 horsepower, every one pumping out into those rear wheels.
And Fred Makiewicz working hard behind the wheel, winner at Nürburgring, winner at Le Mans, powering his way now down towards campus and then the Cours Paul Frere. So is this going to be a lap that puts him back to the top of the times? Well, no absolute best in sector 1, it's a personal best. Can he find any more time? No, he's down in the middle sector.
Don't know where that went. Didn't see anything that looked like it was a part of the racetrack where time was lost, but of course it happens in the early part of that lap, just as you come down through Bruxelles and then through Speaker's Corner. That boy's brave.
Absolutely.
Flat as a kipper through Blanchemont.
Hard on the brakes, down to the bus stop. Car quivers under braking. Traffic ahead. He's got to nail it on this lap. Through he comes, right then left, up to the timing line. The time to beat is a 2:18.763. Can he do it? No, is the answer. It's a slow lap, isn't it? A 2:20.258.
Disappointing. In the meantime, Dries van Thor was the number 1. It is Dries van Thor, number 1, Audi 2, 18.763. So, what's new? An Audi being quickest provisionally in Spa 24. Who wrote that script? Never heard of that before.
And from a Belgian team, no less, and a Belgian driver. But it's not the time, it's the average, and then you've got to get through Superpole as well, of course, tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. Marcus Winkelhock here behind 333 Ferrari that's lost its best time for track limit abuse and almost gets in the way there. We put Alexander Matschel, had we not, at the wheel of that car for Q2. Here he goes. Number 25 Audi, Marcus Winkelhock at the wheel, down in sector 1, down in sector 2.
Just sensed a little bit of a lift, a little bit of a breathe. So this lap time, not going to be any improvement. So maybe just getting it all squared away. And now get on it hard, Marcus, because this is where you can make up a small amount of time. You go in really slow when you're preparing for a lap, get the car positioned to the right, then straight line the exit as well as possible.
Team looks on. Over the line he goes, and that lap was no quicker.
Aston Martin 62. The sister car is in 5th place, the 62. Looking to see if it's down in 16th. Wait to see what Aston Martin 2:14, 15. This is going to be a strong lap, is it? No, it's not. 2:20.8, so looked like it might have been a little bit quicker just coming into the bus stop chicane.
Dominic Baumann at the wheel, brought in to replace Alex Brundle. And who else have we got pressing on? There is Dries van Thor.
I think Dries has done his lap, he should be coming in now. Though he's going to have another go, second bite of the cherry. I don't know why he would need to do that, because his provisional lap 2:18.763 looks to me quarter of a second quicker than the second place 34, which is the BMW. So why would he want to do an extra lap when he's probably got enough in hand? Well, that's all time calculated. So if he can find another improvement, it just might consolidate his already provisional pole position.
But Marciello in the pit lane, 14th fastest in the session, and the car 13th on average. That all went south, didn't it? Because that should have been a great lap.
Yes, it would. I mean, it was all ultimately compromised by the two WRT Audis taking up the entire racetrack at this part of the racetrack. And there's a bit of bodywork, something lying on the side of the track as we look at the 63 Lamborghini. We haven't seen an awful lot of that so far. Currently looking to see where the Lamborghini is. Well, he's going to come across start-finish line. That'll redress where that car down in 12th position, just 2 slots outside the top 10, but more importantly, at this point, into the top 20, which is ultimately their aim.
And there's 111, Andrea Caldarelli for 63 Lamborghini on the graphic. 111 comes up towards the timing line.
Well, Andrea Caldarelli doesn't drive in an Audi as far as I'm aware.
That's Loris Hesselmans in the Ausch Motorsport car.
Loris, who does drive normally in the Grasser Racing Team Lamborghini, but here in Spa will be in the Audi. Alex Fontana in the Jaguar.
So everywhere you look, it's a quick driver in a quick car.
But, I mean, it's impossible to pick up because there are so many drivers doing personal bests around the racetrack. So if you focus on the group that are at the top 6, and then the remaining 14 that want to be in the top 20, they're going to be the movers and shakers with, well, just a minute and 14 to go.
So Fontana caught in the traffic. Nips through now. No, can't quite get past the Lamborghini there. That's the 18 car that Juan Perez had to stop at the end of pre-qualifying. And into the pit lane goes the Jaguar, but he might as well. There's a minute to go. You're stuck in traffic. Bail, get the next driver ready.
I mean, the smart thing to do is if you've done a strong time and you're not persuaded that you can maybe improve upon it, look at the two Audis. I mean, certainly the number 1 Audi, in my opinion, should be back in the pit lane right now.
Well, the flag is imminent. But unless you're going to improve on this lap, there is no point staying out. There's number 4 Mercedes, which is Jelmer Berman. Another car with a change of livery for this weekend.
Pretty in pink with the pink stripes.
Berman Stoltz Engel in the zebra. It's quite a competitive lineup, and that will stay out.
Well, maybe they've got more work. They feel they're down in 19th position, so they need a better time. With the track beginning to empty, it's going to give Jelmer Berman an opportunity to get maybe a reasonably good, clearish lap. So back in the BMW garage, Philippe Eng, as we go back to the Honda. Riccardo Patrese had the first run in this car in the session for the 4th driver in effect. So we're now seeing Loic Depailler, his father, of course, a contemporary, and tragically, sadly lost in a horrible accident in Hockenheim in 1980.
As an Alfa Romeo driver at the time, but did success with Tyrrell prior to that, didn't he? Great hang gliding fanatic, his father.
Another thing he was interested in, Patrick, was he became a very capable free diver. Not many people knew that.
No. But he was a proper character, wasn't he?
Oh, very much.
Cigarette
so.
in hand,
Absolutely.
lopsided grin,
yeah,
and hugely brave. But his time in Formula 1 not long enough. So Loic Depailler will stay out. He'll take the flag on the track, coming up to the timing line now. For somebody like Depailler, in fairness, new to GT3 cars at this level, new to this car, every lap matters.
Yeah, it's seat time. It's seat time for Depailler. It's seat time for Riccardo Patrese.
Although, of course, he shot himself in the foot there with losing 6 minutes by the spin. He's able to get back out.
I'm sure it wasn't intentional.
No, indeed.
You know, you've got to be a little bit. I'm the one that can be hard on these guys, but you've got to be the nice guy. I'm the bad cop. You're the good cop. Back to the McLaren 58. So where is that car? Impressive. 5th
quickest
overall, 2:19.539. So that sort of slipped in there without us really losing very much. So
that was a time done by Corledegar. He got black flagged.
He did get black flagged. I wonder whether he got the black flag as a souvenir or whether he's been given a little talking to. It would appear that he's learned his lesson, because nothing has come up on screen indicating he's continuing to abuse track limits.
No, far from it. Good effort that by Corledegar. McLaren's always had pace around here, but never the results.
They're looking forward to, I think, the nighttime period in the race where temperatures will be cooler. They feel that might work more to their strengths than if we have the kind of temperatures that we had here earlier today when it was a 34.5 Celsius. And everybody was just looking skyward and thinking, please cool down. Well, it's done that. Much more comfortable now. And as we get later into the evening, the temperatures will continue to gradually drop away.
Big screens capturing the action, finding the fans as well. So Q2 at an end. So let's do the combined times then now, because we're taking the average. And it's the number 1 Audi that is the fastest, ahead of BMW 34. That good effort by Tom Blumquist, ahead of now 29, which was driven in that last session by Kelvin van der Linde, ahead of René Rast. Corledegar's time putting the McLaren 5th, ahead of the Mathieu Vazivière. Then Marcus Winkelhock from Fred Makovici, and Bentley number 7, courtesy of Jordan Pepper, now going to 9th fastest. The rest of the time scroll through, including a look at who is doing what in the classes at the moment. And interesting to see how things are panning out, because all the while you've got the class battles with, of course, not only the overall situation but the Silver Cup, Pro-Am and Am. So we'll get ready for Q3 very shortly. Cars will pour their way out onto the circuit, and it's another 15 minutes, which is just about 3 minutes or so away from starting. And of course the cars are getting lighter as you go through each section of qualifying, ever more spectacular. Sparks fly there as you look at the backwash shot, but every time you look at the order you find different drivers. It just illustrates what an amazing entry we have for this year's 70th running of the 24 Hours of Spa. One car damaged in free practice earlier on in the day, which was the Black Falcon Mercedes of Gabriela Fianna. That car hopefully will be out for qualifying, but it's not a guaranteed arrival, so I think I'm right in saying that it is missing for the moment, and it may therefore be that we only see it tomorrow when they have the warm-up and also the Super Pole for the fastest 20 at the end of tonight. There is night qualifying though still to come this evening. Of course, everybody has to do 3 laps in the dark to satisfy the regulations, so if they can't get it ready for night qualifying, then they've got to go and face the stewards and plead their case.
Yes, and I would imagine that the stewards would be quite generous to everybody, realising that an incident had occurred and therefore let them go.
Now Dries Van Toor's car is the fastest. Lively session for him, he topped the times. Let's hear from him.
Dries currently fastest in Q2. Now I saw you talking to Chris back there. What advice were you giving him?
How to drive the car around Spa? No, I mean, he knows how to do it, and you know, just giving advice how the car is handling out there. But the car is handling well, like always, and yeah, it's a good start to the qualifying session. Like I said last time, it's still a long way to go, but it's always nice to be around the top 3 or top 5. So yeah, there were still 2 qualifyings coming up, and yeah, another. Well, let's first see where we end up, and then tomorrow there is another Super Bowl as well. But yeah, for the moment, really happy. It's my home qualifying session, and to be on top is a really nice feeling.
What is it going to feel like for you, you know, sitting back and watching Chris complete that final qualifying?
Quite relaxing. I know he's a really good driver and he knows what he's doing. So I don't feel any pressure when he's. I mean, it's always pressure when the car goes out and you're not driving it yourself. You don't have it under control. But you know, I have 2 very good teammates. They know what they're doing, and there was no any feeling or to feel pressure or anything like that. So yeah.
Well, good luck. Thank you.
So, for number 1 Audi, Dries Van Toor has done for today. It'll be interesting to see whether he gets the driving duties, assuming the car is in Super Pole tomorrow.
Well, amongst the drivers, the one that's going to be the most likely choice will be Dries Van Toor, but I would say very, very closely followed by Christopher Mies, who, you know, every time I see him in the Audi, he always looks impressive, and he's probably the least likely looking racing drivers within the Audi, because he looks so bookish almost, but he is amazing behind the wheel of the WRT Audi, and has, you know, shown time in memoriam how good he is, and you know, when victory's not been maybe possible, he and Dries and Ribeiro at times have dragged that performance and done a stunning job.
And it doesn't matter which team, which championship. He's like a USB stick. Plug him in and he just works straight away.
Yeah, pretty a good comparison.
Absolutely. Star driver, undoubtedly, John, you're right. So we are ready for Q3. Fast lane is open, lights have gone green. Some teams just finishing preparation, but we are good to go then. This, the 3rd part of qualifying. Remember, 4 sections for this event. And the pit lane starts to empty. I think it's going to be the 88 Mercedes again that's first out. So they're going to roll the dice again and see whether it's going to be an easier passage this time. Who goes in this session in 88 is the next question. For the ASP team, it will be
Danny Untitled, we think.
Okay.
So it's either him or Christian Boutier, but it's interesting that they've chosen to go out early. I mean, I wonder, would you maybe have sat back and let some of the AMs go out first, but there you see the 911 Porsche. Likewise, Fred Makibiki, so it must be Romain Dumas, we think, behind the wheel of the 911 Porsche. So some teams, particularly those that are at the bottom of the national pits, the historic pits, the whatever you want to call it pits, have got access to the racetrack very quickly. And I wonder, is that actually a time advantage? Because if you're at the very entry point to the pits proper, when the track goes green, you've got to drive the best part of, well, a kilometre virtually to get to the pit lane exit. For those that are at the pit lane exit, as soon as the lights go green, they're on it, they're gone. So maybe there's a small advantage to being at that part of the racetrack, part of the pit lane.
I think you may well be right. Certainly for accelerating away at the end of the pit stop, you don't have to worry about a pit lane speed limit. You just go, and by the time you've accelerated, you're over the line. So it's good for Manthey, for example, being at the out. But this is a look at the pit lane. This is the top pits, the F1 pits, pit in, call it what you will. So there's all of that lot, 30-odd cars. There's a Lamborghini somewhere behind all that fence and the wall, and that's going to hairpin right through La Source any moment. Now, I love the road sign, 7 kilometres to Stavelot, 9 k's to Malmedy. There is the Lambo. Now, that looks like you can leave the pit lane. You can't. You've got to stay on the inside of the white line.
At 50 kilometres per hour.
Absolutely, and trickle on down the hill. Now, it's arduous enough when you've got to get out there, but imagine with a problem limping down the pit lane, it would feel like an eternity.
It is. In fairness, that's what it is. And it's probably the longest pit lane of any, what I would call grade 1 racetrack in the world, but that's what it is. When the Formula 1 races here, they don't do that. Where you see the cars that are parked in the Formula 1 pits coming around the inside of the source, they then blend, there's a blend line to then join the racetrack at the exit of the inside line around La Source, whereas for this 24 Hours of Spa, they've got to go all the way down the bottom and then follow the pit lane exit around the inside of Eau Rouge, then around the outside of Radio, and then you rejoin almost a third of the way down the Campbell Straight.
So the Bernhardt team Porsche with Le Patron, Timo Bernhardt at the wheel then, blasts through Eau Rouge. We're now to night signalling. The team's being reminded they need their lights on because local time, we're just gone 9 o'clock here. This isn't night qualifying, night practice, but it is getting to dusk now, so the lights becoming more important. But not only, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, are the cars getting lighter, but the temperature is getting cooler. Now we're going to see some good times.
Well, fastest overall first sector, but in reality, this is the quickest car through that first sector. So don't run too wide. You can just about get away with that. Both Porsches very much running over the curbing on the exit of down into Bruxelles. So the second sector will go all the way down the hill, and look at the back end of the Porsche getting a bit loose, anxious to get past before they come into Pouhon, but there's not an awful lot of difference in the straight line performance between the Porsche and looking at one of the Lamborghinis. Yeah. So it's getting in the way, as you understand, and really frustrating indeed. That will have cost the 911 Porsche 117 a little bit of time. And look at the excitement on the face of that young lady.
I want a Porsche, Danny, she says.
Well, maybe when she gets old enough, she will have a Porsche. All young ladies have got Porsches, don't they?
Absolutely.
Even Janis Joplin had a Porsche.
That's right. So Timo Bernhardt, absolute best, personal best. This is going to be interesting to see where it puts him. Fred Verviche, though, now has done an absolute best in the first sector for Audi. Speed building through Blanchimont, 252 km/h.
Car ahead of him, pretty wide on the exit of Blanchimont, one of the Mercedes, that ASP, I think. Of course, the Nissan pulls over and lets Bernhardt get through. That was good driving in the Nissan part to let the much quicker car continue unimpeded. So 2:18, 2:19 time affected by traffic midway through the lap.
But it puts them second, and 911 has just gone to the top on average. So Romain Dumas, I think now at the wheel of 911, that car on average goes to the top. So again, if you follow Blancpain, you'll know this. We've got an individual session time for Q3, but then the overall order is shuffled because we've got the average. So we'll give you a lap time, but even if a car goes fastest in the session, it doesn't necessarily mean it's fastest on the combined average times.
What I want is for the heavens to open and just flood the racetrack. We've got a Porsche front row lockout.
If you don't know, everybody, John has a affection for Porsches, as I know many of you do. So 9 minutes of this part to go, 25 you're looking at, which I think we put Fred Verviche behind the wheel of, and he was looking good in Sector 1 and in Sector 2. So 25 Audi is going to be on a strong lap here, and it's actually done pretty well for traffic, hasn't it?
Very much so, in that mid-sector, fastest overall, and sufficiently clear the Bentley number 7 coming out of the bus stop chicane. So this is going to be probably the quickest lap of this session overall so far, a 2:19.255. Marcus Winkelhock's happy with that because they've gone provisionally quickest in Q3. Thumbs up for Christopher Haase, and they are looking very nice in Santa Log Racing.
And Bentley 8 has just gone second on a 2:19.990 as an average. Not for long, it's down to third now because 76 of Jake Dennis goes second. It was Andy Soucek at the wheel of the Bentley. So it's Audi from Aston Martin from Audi now, because up to third has just got Nico Müller in number 2. Fourth is Bentley.
And do you remember saying, well, down to 5th place, the number 8 Bentley, but you remember saying in the pre-qualifying event, where is Bentley? They've got no pace at all. They've been just sitting back doing their homework.
Absolutely.
The pace, Andy Soucek behind the wheel.
Now BMW fastest, because on average Christian Cronjes has done a 2:19, or the car has done a 2:19.000 as an average. Christian Cronjes for Valkenhorst has got top.
Who would have thought it?
Well, it was a quick car earlier in pre-qualifying.
He's been quick all day.
Tom Blumquist was good in Q2, and Cronjes, fair play, a really good effort.
The trouble looks like a left rear might have gone down. Watch, listen, down a gear, just picking up the throttle. You just initially open the throttle slightly until you get the sense the car's with you, then you can get on it. And then the exit of the corner, just let the car float out to the curb. So, Andy Soucek. You can just see a little bit of the ratcheting with this Evo version of the Bentley. So traffic is going to be a problem. McLaren and Mercedes up ahead. Oh, well, again, that was a little bit clumsy from Andy. Not really quite nailing it as he ought to have done, and that's probably more frustration and looking forward to the traffic that he knows he's going to have to cope with. Well, McLaren gets out of the way. Thank you very much. The Mercedes is going to step aside as well. So he's done actually pretty well. Good cooperation from those other drivers around, and that's what I would like to see. The Audi 25 likewise just following up behind the Bentley.
So here's Andy Soucek. Number 8 Bentley is 9th. Number 7 is 27th. So they're not quite at the races yet, but look at this wall of traffic. Nowhere for Andy to go.
No, absolute mess. I mean, pretty much got a clear run all the way through, and then in the last 2 corners, 8th overall, and that could have been a better effort, but just for the traffic. Look at Maxime Soulet and Vincent Abril, freshly, well, has he got lamb chops on his, is that a beard, or is those sort of like, anyway, whatever. There is the quickest car overall after or during this third session, 6 minutes remaining.
So Christian Cronjes at the wheel of it, and it is Fred Verviche second. Now Stephen Kane has just gone third in the session and 6th on average. So Bentley 7 has arrived in the races.
Taking a long time, but again, you know, do the time when it counts. It counts in this qualifying. So Bentley, like other teams, have gone through a metronomic kind of program, just checking things, doing things. When it comes to qualifying, they have got the speed, they've got the car, and this Bentley, this Evo 2 version, has clearly got more pace than we certainly saw earlier today.
And the team's looking on from the pit garages, staring at all the data. That's the Valkenhorst team, which interestingly at the moment, of course, is rather humbling at Rover Racing. Slow car from turn 4, that was the Audi that we saw a little while ago, so it's limping back. 5 minutes of this part of qualifying to go.
14 Lexus is down in 19th place, an average of 2 minutes 20.8.
Yellow flag.
That's
red flag.
Red flag. With 4.5 minutes, or just over 4.5 minutes to go. Now, was that for traffic, or is there another reason?
I wonder if that Audi is ground to a halt somewhere inconvenient. If it was getting slower and slower, it may have just stopped. I know that sounds obvious, but if it stopped on the road or on a dangerous place, the race director... Oh,
it's the Aston.
It's the Aston.
Now, why is that stopped up there? Is that Jake? It is Jake Dennis.
So the car that was 4th on average, the R Motorsport Aston Martin.
Well, Jake got out, walked around the front of the car, had a look at it, and then has stepped back and sat on the wall. But, I mean, I wouldn't think a red flag would be necessary for a single car stopped on the inside of radio.
But heaven forfend anybody else ran off the road and struck a parked car. Number 76 under investigation, calls the red flag.
Is there damage to that left side of the Aston Martin? Has he spun the car? I think there's damage to the door. There is damage to the car on the left-hand side.
That's not just the way the door's closed, is it?
Well, it's difficult. The camera angle couldn't quite pick it up cleanly. It might be just if the door isn't properly closed, but there's marshals jumping down to have a look and see if there is something. So that's huge disappointment for the 76 Aston. Currently, it's 4th overall. So everybody's looking down and they're looking inside the rims to see if there's a problem with the suspension. But there comes the
marshal with a bag of sand, I think, running towards it, like there might be a fire or a leak.
I mean, you wouldn't have a brake issue at that. So
we're hearing it's lost oil pressure.
Well, I mean, the only way you lose oil pressure is if the engine is about to blow up, or an oil pipe or some form of, the oil cooling and whatever has maybe fractured, or a union has fractured or something. Certainly, Jake Dennis got down and had a look into the front of the car. I thought he was looking at the brake assembly, the brake disc, the pads or whatever, to see if that was the issue, but it would appear to be a loss of oil pressure.
Loss of oil through a rouge.
So loss of oil through a rouge. Must be true.
That'll temper a few drivers when they go back out. They've got 5 minutes.
What if they do go back out?
More or less remaining. Well, some will go back out, but if there is oil in Eau Rouge, what are they going to do? They're going to get out with speedy dry and brush it all clean, because there's still 4 minutes 52 of this session remaining. So that's sufficient time for people to go out and get 1, possibly 2 flying laps in. They can't just bail out at this point. They've got to allow them that track time.
Yeah. Indeed, but
can't see anything that resembles oil on the track from that shot there.
You're only going to get 1 flying lap in, aren't you?
No, you go out.
You've got just under 5 minutes to go.
There we are. There's that's nasty. That's a load of fluid, and that's going to. I think Jake might have managed to get the car offline before he would go through Eau Rouge.
Well, that's why your oil pressure dropped, because there's no oil in it.
Yep.
But if you take less than 5 minutes, take an out lap out, there's just about time for 1 flying lap. Flying lap is a 2:20.
It is, yes.
So you've got really an out lap and 1 flyer if you're at the front of the queue. But this could be quite a long stoppage, because that's going to go all the way up the hill.
That's going to be a good 100 metres up the hill before the car stopped. But looks to me he's managed to keep the car pretty much off the line. He must have realised there's something pretty bad pretty quickly. He didn't appear to take the race line. He was certainly leaving enough space on the inside, but that's going to take, say, 15 minutes and probably counting to get the track back to a condition before the cars can be released to conclude this session and then go on for the 4th and final qualifying session.
Well, the restart is in 12 minutes' time.
Well, there we are.
Hopefully. But again, if that happened in the race, in the dark, and suddenly a line of oil went down, it would be a real drama. So, illustrating another of the perils of GT racing in the dark. So, we've just seen Jake Dennis step from 76. Mathieu Vazivière, co-driver, may well have a concerned thought or two about this. Let's hear from him.
Really unfortunate seeing your car where it is right now. I can see by the look on your face you're not very happy. Do you know anything about what happened?
No, not exactly. I don't want to speak because we don't know exactly what happened. We see that the front of the car is a bit broken. So I don't know. He said in the radio that some Audi or some car were completely stopped in the last corner just to prepare the lap. So this is quite dangerous first. And then we don't know what happened, to be honest. But yeah, it's a shame. But anyway, it's 24 hours. So now we are already looking for the future for Saturday race.
So there's a lot of oil on the track that I've heard on the top of Eau Rouge. So the car must have lost a bit of oil pressure?
Yeah, I think we lose some oil or something because maybe it touched the radiator, so I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened, but it's like this, it's racing.
Your mechanics are super good, so let's see how it goes. Thank you.
So by the sound of it, a slow car ahead looking for clear track space and a little tap in the tail.
Yeah, there's been a lot of very close calls as we get a view of the Aston just coming up on the inside of radio, and at that point Jake Dennis knew that there was a major issue. So if there had been a tap potentially in the bus stop chicane, which is the most likely place. We've seen a lot of backing up.
Yes, message.
And there's another
from
car just coming
race
across, got
director.
caught.
We had to interrupt the session. We have oil on track. We need to clean the track before to restart. We need to clean the track before to restart. We will restart as soon as possible.
So that's the voice of Alain Adon, the race director, confirming why there is the red flag. So to pick up on what John was saying a few minutes ago, it wasn't just the accident that was the cause, it was the oil. Moving the car is the easy bit, cleaning the track is the harder part.
I mean, you've got one marshal down there doing the cleaning, another one about 20 metres up the track, you know, the pathfinder, but you can see just how much oil has been spilled. Now, that's not the racing line, but nevertheless, it needs to be cleared up in the interest of safety for all the competitors. And there's no way you can do it quickly. It's a manual job, and there's nothing like getting a broom out and doing a bit of housework. Very emancipated men here in Belgium, aren't they?
Clearly so. So sweeping goes on, and when that's all soaked in, then the race director will get the session back underway. But as I say, I don't think much will be achieved by many on an oily track as well, with 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes to go, of Q3. Of course, some drivers still to go. And then they have a short break, and then we're into the night qualifying session, where it is all about getting used to the car, the track, and the traffic in the darkness.
And of course, that's all been pushed back because there will be other activities on track before we get into the nighttime practice. So we'll probably end up here about 6 o'clock in the morning before we get finished, the way these things are going.
Well, yes, each of these aspects forcing the timetable back further.
And you can just see how far that's just about almost the end of the compression at Eau Rouge, and oil already at that part of the track. And I wouldn't be surprised that it was halfway down the hill into Eau Rouge.
So as we await the restart, good news at Falcon Motorsport, because 34 with Christian Cronje's quickest on average, and Tom Blumquist did a great job as well. Let's hear from Tom.
Tom, your car's doing very well. You were very quick in your session. I know the red flag's probably a bit annoying for you, but we have to take those safety procedures to get a car back on track.
Well, to be honest, it doesn't really affect us, the red flag, because, you know, I did my lap in Q2, and Christian's just banked his lap in before the red flag. So, you know, thankfully it doesn't really affect us. But I mean, the car's working really well. You know, we got a great team here. Drivers are on it as well. So full credit to the guys behind us here, and you know, the car's been really quick. So we're looking forward to it.
Now you have got a Spa winner on board with you, Philip Eng. What does that feel like to drive with Philip? Has he given you any secret tips on how to win the race?
Yeah, he's sharing all his tips with me. I mean, no, he's you know, he's really experienced in the M6. You know, the last couple of seasons he's been fully on it. He's proven today how rapid he is. But even Christian, you know, Philip and I are both, you know, BMW factory drivers, but he's been right with us. He's been super on it. So I think, you know, we got a really strong team. So I think all in all, we should be in for a good race.
Let's see how on it you are. Thank you.
We are 40 seconds away from the restart because it's been brought forward. You heard the voice of Alain Adon a moment ago saying it will start at 19, and that is now 35 seconds away. Tom Blumquist, son of Stig Blomqvist. Although Tom is British by nationality, he is New Zealand by birth, and of course with a Swedish father, member of the British Racing Drivers Club, as a Commonwealth driver, but now with a British licence. And Tom, as he just said, a BMW factory driver, former DTM racer, now GT and Formula E racer. So we're nearly good to go.
Yeah, and a good job by the marshals to get that oil cleared up. So track will be going green very, very shortly. People lined up trying to get the last knockings before this session, 4 minutes 50 remaining. Whether anything will be gained. The Porsche 911 looking to get into the mix as well. So that currently is down in 12th place based on the times in the first three sessions, but in reality the Porsche, as a three-driver car lineup, has only done 2 of the 3. So they would like to get that into the top 10. The sister car, the 117, is up in 7th place on a 2 minutes 19.8. So there's about half a second between those two cars. Not everybody will go out. Some will sit back and think, well, let those that are going out do the track cleaning. And also, there will be information available as to whether the track is in a good... You can see just there in the compression, there is still a residue of the I call it speedy dry, whatever it is, the material that they put on the racetrack. So drivers coming through that for the first time will be cautious, knowing that that's covering up a part of the racetrack where there has been an oil spill.
I'm surprised that so many teams are going out, actually, given that there's so little time left. But they're going to have a go, see if they can get one more good lap out of this. There is that cement dust put down.
It'll be interesting to see the first car that goes through there. Is the racetrack actually giving up the levels of grip it did before? Is there still enough oil there to unsettle any one of these cars that are going back out of track?
The team's being warned to remind their drivers, slippery track from turn 1 to turn 4. So it was at La Source where that little bit of contact must have come, and that's where the oil has started to dribble from. And we've got, as I say, a lap at the end of this.
Yeah, but it doesn't take an awful lot. These engines are pumping oil at a pretty high pressure, and any fracture, any damage to the oil system, it'll very quickly blow it through the system.
There's number 14, Lexus, which has such a good run at Paul Ricard.
Yeah, all the way down, currently in 19th place, and they're looking for improvement. They're on the bubble, more or less, of the top 20, so it is for the 14 Lexus clearly a challenge and a necessity to improve. The lap, their last lap in this session is currently a 2:20.4 against a 21.2 in Q2. So they could do with getting into somewhere the very high 19s just to consolidate. The drivers trying their hardest as Dries van Voor sits in the WRT Audi team. René Rast alongside. Again, the same issue. We've got drivers trying to find track position. The number 1 Audi has been outmaneuvered, been caught out by being a little bit on the, trying to be a little bit clever, Alex Ribera. So he's, and you can see, look at Dries, go, come on, go, my, well, how do you swear in Belgium? Or Flemish, whatever he speaks.
Well, that car hasn't done a lap time in this session, so Ribeiras has got to get on with this, and this is his one chance. There is less than a lap time left in the session, and I think what was steaming up Vanthor there was that it was a slow exit, so it was a slow start to the lap.
But the reason he was almost to blame for the slow exit, because he was trying to manipulate the Lamborghini to give himself the best opportunity, and he got caught out. You can see as they come through, kicking up the dust. That is not easy going through a Rouge and race speed with a track like that, and Ribeiras, that was a big moment because he could have so easily just all of a sudden be coming over ready or backwards rather than going forwards.
So the pressure is on. He's got through the slippery part of the circuit, but there's always the traffic. And let's see what the first sector is going to be like on this lap for Alex Ribeiras. It was a good effort in the pre-qualifying session where it's a personal best, but seeing that he hasn't done a lap time, it would be a personal best. So a 39.7 in the first sector, which is okay. But I think the pressure is going to be given here to Christopher Mies in the last part of qualifying.
Am I blind, or I can't see number 1 in the top 20?
No, he's not. He hasn't done a time, so it's 57 on average.
I'm just looking for the...
Yeah. So it hasn't done a time yet, therefore the average can't be taken. It will be done at the end of this lap. So right now, 57th in the classification is number 1 Audi.
You have to think they're going to be slightly higher than that, regardless of what happens. But again, the usual thing of traffic. Where do you use the traffic? Sometimes you've got to be a little bit patient, maybe back off a little bit earlier coming into Campos, and then use the drive that you've got to come through the curb, Paul Frere curb. Get the run. He's done that, he's started the process, but lights flashing, will the Lamborghini be cooperative? I somehow doubt it because he looks like he's on his own lap. And he's not about to concede track position. Dries van Voor looking very tense indeed coming up. Ribeiras just running everything possible. Now he wants to get through, coming up into the bus stop chicane. Again, the Lamborghini not required to get out of the way because they're all fighting for overall position. But finally gets through, and that will have cost. And he goes into the pit. How ironic can you get? The Lamborghini could have backed off much earlier and given Ribeiras much easier time. He comes across start-finish line and he goes 6th.
It was a 2:20, which was nearly 2 seconds slower than Vanthor, but 6th on average. Sighs of relief. Applause from some, but a sigh of relief, I think, from Dries. As here you've got the Am Cup and National Cup cars coming into the chicane at the bus stop. 58 McLaren hasn't done a lap time either. And look at that in the background.
I mean, trying to get out of the way, the Cup car, and then one of the GT3 cars is going to go around the outside. The Cup car just drives straight into it. I mean, that's just clumsy, but inevitable. when drivers are looking for every advantage that they can gain, as the sister car to the 76, the 62, bumps its way around. So where are we looking at 62? It's got to compete as that checkered flag is out, so 62 comes across. Where would it end up? 16th overall. Some consolation, I suppose, for the Motorsport team.
And the McLaren was 22nd. Who was at the wheel of the McLaren? It was a long way down in that session. So 2 cars, disappointing.
Q4 will start at 21.31. Q4 will start at 21.31.
And that's 5.5 minutes away. Merci Alain. 99 BMW goes through. 35 Mercedes coming up to the timing line as well. So you've got the individual session times, you've got the average to consider. And right now, 34 BMW is still top by, on average, 0.4 of a second.
That's massive. That is massive. But it's the average of, in that case, 2 drivers. What'll be the case at the end of Q4 when you have 3 drivers behind the wheel. Wait to see. So 35 thunders its way across start finish line and ends up at 28th overall. There we are. Earl Bamber having a little laugh. Tina Weinhardt. 2 factory Porsche drivers driving in a quasi-private, semi-factory, whatever you choose to call it, Porsche.
114 rumbles down the pit lane, the Lexus, which is currently where on average? 29th, gosh, it's quite a long way down. But having said that, when you had an entry like this that is so competitive, something's got to give, hasn't it? I said it pretty much every Blancpain round we've ever been to. Just the sheer numbers of this means you can't have everybody up in the top 10. And it's proved once again. Well, Christian Cronjes is the fastest, and he did a 2:19.012. Let's hear from him.
Christian, fastest at the moment. Big smile on your face. Where did that come from?
I don't know. It's been amazing the whole time. I mean, we're pushing really hard. The team is working extremely hard to get this car going as fast as possible. And so far we're doing a good job. And now it's just up to Philip to finish the job.
I can see that. What's the track like at the moment?
You know, it's a lot grippier now than earlier this day. It's a lot cooler, a lot better for the car in general. So for sure the time will be dropping also during the last session now, I guess.
That's very interesting to know. Now, Philip, as I said to Tom, has already won this race before. Do you think you can do it again?
I hope so. Certainly we're pushing for it. I know I got the teammates to do it, so we're just going to push on and do the best we can.
You definitely do. Well done.
So Christian Cronjes, very happy with life after that. Great effort.
Yeah, I mean, to be truthful, if you'd asked me to nominate a top 10 or a top 6, I doubt I would have considered the 34 BMW as being one of those cars. But you know, it is effectively a factory BMW and full factory effort going into the operation, and the performance of the BMW M6s here this weekend is not just the 34 car. It's the 98 and 99 have also been showing. 99 currently is in 20th place. The 98 a little bit further down on 30th.
Well, it is BMW from Audi, and then Aston Martin right now. Audi 5th, Audi 6th, Bentley 7th, Porsche 8th. Porsche at the moment is the phrase keeping its powder dry. 9th is Bentley, 10th Mercedes. We haven't got that many Mercedes yet up at the pointy end on the average. Ferrari we've hardly talked about yet, but 72 from SMP AF Corsa is 11th, and Mercedes 12th. So it's a very jumbled order right now. The Manthey 911 is only 13th, Emile Frey Jaguar 15th. But, of course, there's another element of qualifying still to come, and then you take the top 20 to run in Superpole tomorrow evening. And just factor into this, there's a rather Damocletian grid drop hovering over the 911 Porsche anyway for Romain Dumas, with now 4 behavioural warning points to his name, and that is a 10-place grid drop. And I'm saying it's a Damocletian penalty because it's not confirmed until you get up to the start of the race, because if anything else happens between now and then, the penalty will become more draconian.
Sounds painful to me. Looking at what we're saying, I mean, we've got a top 20 after 3 rounds of qualifying. We've got a top 20 after 4 rounds of qualifying. Who is in that top 20 and what their respective positions are will have probably not a huge amount of bearing on what we will see then on Friday evening, when we have an effect. I call it Superpole. It's not a Superpole as such. It is a shootout. it will be tomorrow night that everybody's focus, once they've achieved their goal of getting into the top 20, will be focused upon. So still a lot more for teams to think about, but right now, Q4 coming up, they know that this is their last opportunity to consolidate or to gain position. So this session is going to be tough on everybody in the field, but particularly those in the pro category, who are the ones that are fundamentally going to be the principal challengers for out-and-out victory, certainly for 6 hours and 12 hours of the 24-hour race.
Quick word about the classes. Pro-Am in that last session was topped by 175, which is the Mercedes of Kenny Harbaugh, Ben Schneider, Thomas Jäger and Martin Conrad. And if you go further down through the Silver Cup and the Am Cup cars, you get other good times out of the likes of 49 in Pro-Am, which was the Darren Burke, Sully Yorick, Ewan Hankey, Felix Rosenqvist Ram Racing entry. And let's go back down to the pit lane, catch up with more drivers with Dakota.
Fred, P2, 0.4 of a second separates you and those boys in P1. You haven't won this race yet, but I know it's on your bucket list.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, P2 is not bad so far. It's a good new system with the average time. So let's see what Haase can do, but I'm confident he can do a good job.
It's good that you're with last year's winners.
That's great. I mean, I'm really happy that Audi gave me this confidence to drive with them. And I think we're matching each other, and the atmosphere is great.
Thank you. Good luck.
So right now, Pro-Am, as I say, is Ram Racing topping the times. Then 32nd is the leading Silver Cup car. Number 28, Lamborghini, Ivano Santamato, Stefano Guttuso, Nicolas Pola, Fabrizio Cristiani. The leading Am, as Q4 is live, is 188 of Chris Harris, Chris Goodwin, Andrew Watson, and then Alexander West. And got to go quite a long way down to find the best of those in the Group Nacional as well. Silver Cup, I told you that 28 years I had. So 540 is the leading Pro-Am at the moment. That's the Black Swan racing car of Tim Pappas. Right, we are good to go. The session is back live.
Interestingly, David, track relatively empty compared to the first 3 sessions, when there's a lot of cars very keen to get onto the racetrack. Indicates to me that the 3rd driver and the 3 driver lineups particularly are all looking at one single flying lap on a new set of tyres to either make or break their provisional positions overall, but principally for those looking to get into the top 20.
And there you can see just how busy the pit lane is. Relatively few teams out on track, and those that have timed it right and are on the circuit now may have bought into the ideal situation.
Yeah, indeed, and that's the point I was trying to make. The 88 Mercedes, we saw Raffaele Marcello, when he got behind the wheel of this car, got really bogged down, trapped in traffic coming up through the bus stop chicane, running behind the Porsche 911, up in through Blanchimont, backs out of it a little bit, but he's got traffic behind him, so he needs to be careful not to be involved in causing a blockage to cars that are running that little bit quicker. But since they're all on their out lap, it's all a little bit academic. So the 88 Mercedes does the usual thing of staying way to the right, then cuts back from the pit lane entry as you go to the 117, which currently is 8th overall. Again, doing much the same thing. You can see how much they're able to straighten out that switch from right to left by being really slow in the first part, getting right across onto the right hand side, then cutting back up on the brakes, down into La Source. Laurent Vanfort, the absolute master of Audis in his day, now a master in the Porsche team. So watch as we drop downhill. I'm going to stop talking. I want to hear how flat can you be going through a Rouge, Laurent? Nothing left in the tank, flat as a kipper. To do that in a GT3 car, it's all right doing it in a sort of high downforce, high drag single-seater, but doing that in a 1,000+ kilogram GT3 car, doing 220 kilometers an hour, that is impressive. Like the way coming through Le Coum, doesn't lift off and get that little bit of pitch you get. He just comes back off the throttle a little bit, keeps the car balanced where he wants it. So there's not too much transition between nose down, tail up, whatever. Traffic ahead for Van Thor, that's what he's going to be concerned about. There are 3 cars further down the road, and any one of those 3 could come into play probably even before he gets to the curb, Paul Frere. And that will be a nightmare. Look at them, 4 in fact up ahead.
And it looks so planted, that car, doesn't it?
It's the way he's driving it. You know, it's a slightly different style of driving to that the Audi he was familiar with. But once you master that driving technique, it's still a very effective GT3 car. But look at that, I mean, committed. And what I love is looking at the rear of the 911, you see the exhaust. They run these things so lean, the pipes are grey. There's no hint of soot or black. Fastest overall in the Sector 1, well, understandably why, because he looks the quickest car. 2 cars up ahead of him. Fortunately, maybe only one of them will come into play as he comes up into the bus stop chicane. Is he going to get past the Bentley as he comes? Yeah, well, it does. Gets through, so unimpeded. So this lap for Lawrence Van Thorpe is going to be the best chance, I suspect. He's going to have traffic there getting really messy. The 19 Mercedes really causing Van Thorpe to have to hesitate. Cost him maybe half a second or more. Comes across the line, 19.8. Provisionally quickest.
So 2:19.862 puts the car fastest in this session, of course, and fastest for the moment on average. So it was a lap full of commitment, and it's paid out for Van Thor. Then he goes to the top of the time. So if one Porsche can do it, what can 911 do? Dirk Werner is at the wheel of the Manthey car now. But not only are the drivers, of course, hustling on here trying to go for a time, but they've got the traffic and they've got the fading lights to contend with. And as the natural light fades, so these very bright headlights in the mirrors become more of a factor.
Oh yes, it's horrible, the lighting. You can see as the camera picks up the power of these LED headlights. You know, they've just got a whiteout. Which car switch? You couldn't even tell there's 3 cars in that shot until they pan through the corner, and then you can see the individual cars. The 34 BMW by Blancpain using the flasher on the car. You're only allowed to use it so many times, particularly when you come in behind an AM car, and that's a mess for Blancpain. And you can see Tom Blumquist, he knows that this time has compromised 2 cars in the way. Blancpain, one gets out of the way, but it's going to be a difficult lap for the BMW driver, and he will have lost. And it's the Cameron Matt Griffin Ferrari that was car maybe could have done more. Look how wide, Blancpain runs the Ferrari off the curb. That again will probably get some of the attention. Still quickest overall nonetheless. So the 34 BMW has gone back to the head of the field, but now we've got the 911. Porsche comes up across start-finish line. It's not a great lap. 15th, how disappointing. No, it's not. 11th, yeah,
15th in the session, 11th on average. It was Matt Griffin in the Ferrari, who of course was trying to do his own lap time there, but ended up in the way.
This is the problem when you get a Pro-Am car and a Pro car coming up. You're reluctant to give up your position because you're fighting not for overall position particularly, but for your particular class. But certainly Blancpain didn't show any mercy on the exit of the bus stop chicane by running the Ferrari 4 wheels off the racetrack. And if it had been Duncan Cameron behind the wheel, maybe would it be more to be heard from Blancpain. There's the number 8 Bentley. Number 8 Bentley currently overall. Vincent Abril, it's Maxime Soulet behind the wheel. So watch Maxime Soulet, who normally, when you get down to the last minutes, is in the number 8 Bentley, the driver that will probably pull out the miracle time, and that's what he's looking for currently, as I say, in 6th place overall, comfortably inside the top 20, which is what their principal ambition is at this stage. But they want to know just what this car is capable of. Yeah. So it's not as if they're going to hold very much back, but the key will be to getting into the top 20, and then they should be doing very comfortably indeed.
6th fastest, 4th now, and that was the best time in this session, so it's gone quicker than the Porsche. So there, number 8 Bentley to the top of the session times. Maxime Soulet, happy birthday, because he's 35 today, 4th on average.
But the Porsche 117 has just managed to nip in behind the Bentley into 5th place. And it's Audi's 2nd and 3rd behind the BMW.
Robin Frintz brings number 2 into the pit lane, 2nd fastest on average, and now 3rd in the session because Albert Costa has put the Lexus 2nd in the session. number 14, but that's only 13th on average.
Yeah, but it's 25. Audi has gone up into second place overall now. Sanderlock Audi, WRT Audi, WRT Audi. So great effort by the Sanderlock team to put their car ahead of the two WRT teams. 9-11, still work to do.
So Werner hard on the brakes, into the bus stop, turns through the right, flicks left, up towards the timing line.
Slow time.
Yeah, it's not great, is it? Car squirms as he puts in the power. This is the lap he's got to really go for.
Well, 5.5 minutes of the session remaining.
Personal best in the last sector, momentum carried forward. Is this the lap?
This has got to be the lap.
So let's stay with it, out of La Source, up through the gears, on board John.
Okay, we're dropping down the hill, 4th gear, 5th gear, 6th gear. I'm going to shut up, listen, flat, flat. Oh, a little breathe, just a touch of, because he had a touch of understeer going from left to right, so we had to check it by coming out of the throttle, just a small amount. So Dirk Werner not confident enough to nail it all the way through Eau Rouge.
Up to Lecombe, down through the gears, on the brakes, the car squirms a little under braking, turn right, turn left, up the curb.
And again, not really, car not looking as comfortable to me as it, and again very wide coming through the exit of Lecombe.
It's unravelling this.
Well, it looks like he's just got a little bit too much understeer and he can't get the front of the car to respond quite the way he might like to give him that confidence to get on the throttle and get the car then exiting out of the corner at the maximum pace.
Out of Speaker's corner, downhill, this is Pouin. Speed building as he comes out of the corner, traffic up the road as well, and he'll gobble up the slower car into Piff Paff now.
Yeah, but he's got traffic behind him, and that traffic is actually running pretty quick. It's one of the McLarens, I think, that might be the 58. I'm assuming that is the back of the McLaren. So, out of Piff Paff, down into Campus. Take the curve on the inside, you're allowed to do that. Be careful on the exit not to run too wide. Flat out through curb, Paul Frere runs the curve on the exit. Now from here up until the bus stop chicane, it should be absolutely pedal to the metal. Flat out through the first part of Blanchimont.
It'll be an improved lap time. Incidentally, Mauro Engel has gone fastest in this session, 2:19.062, 7th. That car now number 4 Mercedes on average. What can the Porsche do? Just the bus stop to come.
Going to be difficult. It's got to be a big time and get into the top 20. That's got to be his target.
Red flag.
But he's got to back out of it before he comes across start-finish line. Well, the time will be disallowed.
Red flag is out. 12th on average, 19th of the session.
Well, he hasn't slowed down and there's a red flag.
Yeah. But where's the red flag around the circuit? Find me a red flag.
Slow down.
It's on the timing screen.
Say Q4.
Now we've gone back to green. So there wasn't a red flag.
Well, the red flag came up on the screen.
Absolutely.
But maybe, I don't know where it came from, but it's gone now. It's all green.
Exactly. There was no red flag on a marshal's post. That was what I was trying to indicate.
No, I understand.
So it came up on the timing screen, red flag out of nowhere.
But teams have been on the radio to guys, red flag, slow down.
Possibly, yeah.
May have done.
So I don't know how or where or why, but briefly, all the timing data, and you saw it on the little coloured graphic on the screen at home, went red.
Spider got into the works.
Is that what it was? Well, this car has done the best time in the session, 2:19.062 from Mercedes Maestro Mauro Engel. He's brought the car up to 7th, and having said a little while ago that Mercedes didn't seem to be showing all that good pace, well, bam, Mauro Engel is there. He is now quickest within Q4. So the session has got 2 minutes to go, and who else can improve? Well, Lawrence Vanthoor has done the absolute best in the first sector, but isn't going to be a threat anymore. It looks as though Mauro Engel, who's down in the middle sector, will stay out, in fairness.
He's resetting once again. Yeah. You could see the way he came into the bus stop. He had given up the lap he was presently on. Now gets the perfect line through the exit of the bus stop, up across start-finish line, into La Source. Again, he's got the issue of traffic ahead of him. Won't be a factor going through a Rouge or over radio. Where will he catch it? Well, he might not even catch it coming up into Lecombe. So will it be that middle part of the sector where that will become the issue for the number 4 Mercedes? Again, Mauro Engel, big commitment coming through Eau Rouge and radio. The Mercedes AMG GT3 always looks pretty much planted. It's a great car for this kind of racetrack.
All grunt and go up the hill, isn't it? All that torque drags it up the hill. And now into Le Combat. He's down, look, in the first sector. So Maro Engel here. He's trying to go yet faster to help the average of the car, but it's going to be 7th. 20 cars into Superpole. That's where they need to be, because as long as you're in that top 20, you've got a chance in Superpole tomorrow, depending on who your nominated driver is. It could be Engel for that car anyway, as the quicker gives you a chance to go for pole.
72 Ferrari currently in 9th quickest. Again, looking for further improvement, personal bests in sectors 1 and 2. Again, the problem of traffic up ahead, but he gets through that cleanly. Good cooperation on the racetrack. So not Maro Engel, the Ferrari getting through cleanly. This is going to be, one would assume, an improving lap, because 2 personal best. First and second sectors should be a personal best, and the third sector a good lap to 19.5, and the Ferrari is 9th. Thought I might have done a little bit better, fastest overall in the final sector, but not enough to drag the car up.
So here you've got the Nissan, which is currently 21st on average and is 0.02 of a second away from being into the top 20. Can this car get into Superpole? Well, it's down in sector 1 and the flag is out. So this has got to be a Herculean effort now, has it not, to get it into the next part of qualifying.
I mean, the amount of time differential between being 20th and being 21st is minute.
Yeah.
But you know, one little bit of exuberance, a little bit of lateness on the brake, a little bit too aggressive on the curbing. Look at Ordóñez behind the wheel. So I wonder why Ordóñez would be doing the final session rather than maybe Alex Bunker, but that's a team decision. Lucas Ordóñez came through the gaming element of motorsport and has proven that you can be a very competitive, effective driver, but the times you're saying, David, are not improving.
No, he's down in the sectors, look, so I fear he's not going to get into Superpole. Remember that they leave the pit lane in order in the reverse of the top 20. So the 20th fastest car this evening will go first, and then it's the fastest car that goes out. Then they get 2 laps, and it's going to be good for Valkenhorst, because as the flag goes out, number 34 BMW is fastest at the end of qualifying on average. Somebody in strife at Pouhon. Who was that?
Oh, I can't quite see.
It's 98 BMW, which is the Collard Wittmann Krohn BMW having a rotation. 98 it is. Yes, a Krohn.
Suspect he may have ridden to the curb on the exit, and that just began the quick rotation. You don't really want to get onto the curbs too early on the exit of Pouhon. You can do it when you're pretty much straightened out, but if you're still steering lock on and the differential of grip between tarmac and the painted curbs usually result in the back end coming around. Let's look and see if am I right. Oh, he's got it even before. Well, that was midway, almost midway through the corner when the back end got away. Don't know whether that was too wide too early or maybe a bit too aggressive on the curb on the entry into Pouhon. The result is sideways and coming to a stop. But delight in the Valkenhorst Motorsport team. Great effort. And Tom Blumquist.
No, we haven't.
Everybody very pleased indeed.
That's the day of days, isn't it?
It is. I mean, what a great day. I mean, you know, not often we have the chance to say great job by the Valkenhorst team, but you know, you put a bit of talent behind the wheel and it just suddenly lifts the overall performance.
Indeed, and experience as well. You know, the team has chipped away for season after season, learnt a bit, improved a bit, learnt a bit more, improved a bit more, and add it all together. And I know it's only qualifying, and I know we've not even got to the race yet. That's 2 days away, but a great job. And Philipp Eng, Tom Blomqvist, Christian Cronje's fastest. We've heard from 2. Let's hear from the 3rd. Let's hear from Philipp Eng.
Boys, a massive congratulations. As you see, hats are coming flying in. There you go, one for you. Philipp, that was really well done, but the job's not complete yet. It's still Superpole tomorrow, yes?
Yeah, it's provisional, but we take it. I'm lucky enough to have 2 very talented and quick teammates, so great job by them. Such as by the team, the car was really hooked up and it felt amazing. To be on provisional pole here for the 24 Hours of Spa is a big honor, and I hope we can take this momentum into Superpole tomorrow.
Very nice. Talented teammate number 1, Tom Blomqvist. You knew this was going to happen. You said you were strong when I talked to you the first time. You surprised now?
Well, I mean, you know, Christian, myself, we got 2 really good laps, and And we had a bit of a margin going into the last session there, and Philip was a bit unlucky with his run, but we did enough. But yeah, I got to say, massive credit to the team. The car's been really, really good. I mean, also these conditions, they really come to play with the M6. So that played all into our hands. But really credit to Philip, to Christian. Christian's been flying. So yeah, really excited and happy for everyone.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we're moving on to the second talented number driver, Christian. I've one little question for you. Who do you think's the fastest out of the three of you?
Mate, it's a tough question. They're all really good. Hard for me to tell. I think Tom had the edge now in the qualifying. So we have something to work on, me and Philip. But, it's early days. We have a long race in front of us. So we're going to work further on and go on from there.
Well done to all three of you. Good luck, Super. Thanks.
And still to come tonight, in 40 minutes' time, is night practice, where every driver must do 3 laps, but it won't affect what we've just seen. It's practice, not qualifying. So this is the average. Number 34 BMW tops the times, then it's Audi, 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 until you get Bentley 6th, Mercedes 7th, Porsche 8th, Ferrari 9th, Lamborghini 10th. We've not really seen very much out of Ferrari nor Lamborghini, but they're there. It's Aston Martin 11th, and then 12th for Mercedes. Let's have a look at the classes as well, because if you go to 25th, you find the leading Pro-Am. That's the number 49 Ram Racing Mercedes. If you get to 31st, you find number 28, which is the Dyco Lazarus Silver Cup car, which has done a 2:21 on average. Then if you go to 42nd now, sorry, no, tell you a lie, 37th, you get to 188 heading the Am Cup. That's the McLaren of Alexander West, Chris's Goodwin and Harris and Andrew Watson. And when you get to a long, long, long way down, 59th, you get to car number 67, which heads the Coupe Nationale, and that's the GDL Racing Lamborghini, the Super Trofeo entry of Andrew Harrianto, Anders Josefsson, Beniamino Gaccia, and Sarah Bovi. So those are class provisional pole sitters, of course 34 BMW from the overall situation. But have a look at this as the order scrolls through. So many different brands, so many different teams, and so many star drivers all accomplished, and you put them all together on this absolutely mega grid. The biggest GT3 race in the world. And spectacular cars, spectacular action we've had throughout qualifying, especially at Eau Rouge with the sparks flying as cars have been bottoming out through there, and there's a whole lot more to come, because if you join us in 40 minutes time or so, night practice will not only allow you to join in the game of guessing which set of headlights is which, but also finding more spectacular action. 2 cars though right at the back of the grid, look, the 76 Aston Martin after its problems, and number 7 Bentley that has also had problems. We need to pick up on why 7 Bentley missed out on one part of qualifying and is right at the back. So night practice to come. Let's have a quick look back at the best bits of 4 parts of qualifying here for the 70th edition of the Total 24 Hours of Spa. It began, of course, in the early evening, and straight away with a spin from Riccardo Patrese. He got going again, but unfortunately got beached on the grass, causing this stoppage, and Riccardo Patrese, and now bespectacled Riccardo Patrese, being dragged back, but the session interrupted. We got going again, everybody storming out, and of course there was a little bit of an incident when Chris Buncombe chopped across the front of Ahmed Al-Hafi. That's being investigated by the stewards. We'll try and catch up on the news as to whether any penalties are coming or any wrist slapping has gone on from the team of stewards. Raffaele Marciello was out first in Q2 and got well and truly blocked by the Alex Riveras, Dries Van Thor and Christopher Mies Audi, forcing him off the road. He was not very amused about that, understandably. And then we had a few cars running wide coming out of Les Combes. Drivers being wished well in the pit lane. The Emil Frey Jaguar amongst the quick cars. And as the times cycle through and the lap times dropped, it gave us number 34 BMW, the Valkenhorst run car, that became the fastest on average, with a great effort put in by all 3 seemingly evenly matched drivers of Tom Blomqvist, Christian Cronjes and Philippe Eng. Another interruption came when Jake Dennis's Aston Martin made contact with another car, put oil down. The session went live again, and BMW ahead of this fleet of Audis, illustrating, although the BMW may have got good average pace, if you take the 3 parts of the drivers' sessions together, there are so many Audis up at the front that it's looking very strong indeed. But number 34 BMW then, with Philippe Eng doing the last part of qualifying, battling with Matt Griffin coming out of the bus stop topping the times at the end of qualifying. Tomorrow there is Super Pole to look forward to, but there's still night practice to come here. That is coming up at 10:30. Join us for that if you can. But for now, from John Watson and David Addison, it's time for a quick glass of beer. We'll see you later. Bye.